Good evening, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the evening of Wednesday, the 23rd of July. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. We saw another update today, and we've made some of the targets I was talking about. Let's go through the others first. NQ, obviously this made the sell signal target, and it has almost retested the high here, but was the weakest really today. RTY went back and retested this high as expected. I can't remember whether I mentioned that in the last Bigger Picture webinar, but I've been mentioning it in my pre-market reviews. This bull flag finally broke up and retested the high, which is good. On DAX and STX, both of these have formed bull flags, and both of those bull flags have broken up. Both of these should retest the highs, so we will see how that goes. Let's have a look at the Bigger Picture charts. Right, okay, on EFs, we've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, although if we go much higher and much faster, we might actually lose both sell signals, which have already fixed. SPX, we haven't lost the RSI 14 sell signal or the RSI 5 sell signal, but again, if we go up much higher, we are actually at risk of losing those. We've still got the hourly RSI 14 sell signal fixed on the 15-minute. I'm watching, hang on, wait a second. What I'm watching here really is this trend line, which I've got. Sorry. Okay. This rising wedge is broken down, and we're likely in a topping process here. But if we go back and test this trend line here, then I would redraw this as unbroken. I was talking about this as a possibility, obviously, on the Qs as well. Let's have a look at that. Daily chart, we lost the divergence. We've no longer got an RSI 14 sell signal brewing, still got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed. On the hourly chart, we've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and this was the trend line I drew the other day on a pre-market video where I was saying if it reached this trend line here, I would again redraw the trend line for unbroken, and I just reckon that the wedge had expanded. On the 15-minute chart, we'll see, but at the moment it's not gone up high enough to reach that trend line again. Now, Dyer had already made a retest of the all-time high, and obviously we had a flag, and that's broken up. We've now got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing, but we haven't reached the other target that I was looking for here, which is that I said incorrectly in a post last week that we'd retested the high already on the Dow Industrials, and we hadn't. We'd retested it on Dyer, but not on the Dow Industrials. We need to retest it on the Dow Industrials, I think. So it doesn't need to go much higher. Almost made it today, just a little further, I think. So we shall see. Hourly chart, we reached the possible near miss target on the hourly sell signal, so I've called that because we got back to the 70 level. 15-minute, we've got some negative divergence on the 15 minutes here, obviously got some potential level tops, but I am leaning towards seeing a number of targets higher, which we haven't made yet. I think there's basically two left, three if you include the ESTX hourly chart. One is a little higher to make this retest here. Two, bear with me a moment. Two, on the DAX chart, I'd like to see also a retest of this high. That wouldn't actually set up any divergence, but it would retest this high, set up the second dive double top, and we would see after that. Main support on all of these is the daily middle band, so if we start seeing breaks of those, then short-term highs are likely in. Nikkei, I was looking for a retest of this high here, and we suddenly made it because obviously this is the move on the trade deal, which the Japanese were not entirely happy about. I think the Japanese Prime Minister resigned. But the deal was done, the market went up, and that retest was made. Could it still do a retest of this high here at 42.4? Yeah, maybe, but it doesn't need to, and we've now got, I haven't marked it in, but we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing here as well. Looking at IWM, IWM's been slower off the mark, really. We haven't, if we were to get to the obvious next trend line here for this trend line to have been expanded, although we've really barely broken down from this trend line here, then I'd be looking for a move up to this trend line here, at which point I would be wondering whether the IHS might actually make target. Now, if we do break up further here, then it could make target. And I've got a couple of targets I'll talk about on SPX and the keys, which I've talked about before. IWM. Early chart, no current divergence. Obviously got a potential level top set up here. 15-minute, got some negative divergence on the RSI 14, and haven't really got significantly beyond this high here. All right, what was I talking about in terms of the targets? A few weeks ago, I was talking about targets that we could make on the upside. In the event that there was a significant push further upwards. And we could be seeing that push. At the moment, we haven't seen any real breaks. I'm not really seeing anything suggesting strongly that we are going to go higher, but I was wondering about a possible test of this trend line here. And I was calling that being in about the 6450, 6500 area, but I think that's probably now pretty definitely in the 6500 area. We could make that, but that's still some significant distance away, and that as a target was somewhat weakened by the fact we didn't make it back to the support here at the last move, although we never actually quite tested it on the upside. So actually, no, that's a legit target, and that's currently in the 6500 area, and obviously that's a moving target that's continuing to go higher. On NDX, that was the other target I gave, and that was this trend line here. If we were to make that, I'd have that in about the 24,500 area, I think. And obviously, again, we're well short of it. I'm a bit doubtful about it getting that far up, but if we see a significant further push up, then we could do it. We're likely to have made, well, very possibly, we'll have made all the targets, remaining unfinished business targets I've been talking about on the upside. We'll make them tomorrow if we retest the highs on DAX and the SDX, and if we retest the all-time high on the Dow Industrial. We'll see how that goes. We've still got an awful lot of negative divergence, basically across the board on the US indices. We've got daily sell signals brewing on fixed. And that's a lot of sell signals. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to turn. It never necessarily means it has to turn, but it's a pretty good indicator that it may well turn. All right, look at DX. DX, I'm wondering about a retest of the low, and we've got a double top here, which is broken down with a target and a retest of the low. Now, we've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing here, but at the moment, we've seen a breakdown, we've seen a back test, and we've seen a lower low. This could be a little level bottom, but if this continues lower, then, well, I'll be liking this target. This target is in basically about the 96.05 area, although I'd really be looking for a retest of this low here, a shade under 96. All right, let's have a look at the other currencies quickly. Looking at the euro, we've actually got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, but again, we've broken up from a double bottom, back test, continuation higher. This could fail here, but if it continues higher, then I'd be looking for a retest of this high, which is a lot closer than the corresponding low on DX. GBP USD, not quite sure what's happening here. We had a sell signal, but that failed. I am wondering if this is a flag which has broken up with a target to retest the high, but it obviously could be a head and shoulders right shoulder forming. In which case the ideal right shoulder high would be up here in the monthly pivot area at 1.3624. USD/JPY, nice move down here. Not really a decent double top, but if it is a double top, then I'd really be looking for a move down to the monthly pivot area at 14474. On USD CAD, we've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed. Hasn't quite reached to retest this low. I am wondering if this might be a triangle forming. You can see it here. I'll just draw it in for you. And it wouldn't actually be a bad triangle at all. So I am wondering whether that might be forming here, and I do have a supporting setup on US dollar, which I'll be coming to on the bigger picture charts. Australian dollar, we had a double top here, which broke down and rejected back up to the high, and NZ may just be heading back to retest the high. So at the moment, I think the lean really is down on US dollar. Let's see how that looks on the bigger picture charts. Okay. In terms of the triangle I was looking at, hang on, what's that on the US dollar? Nope, it wasn't. I was thinking something else. Okay, USD, we've got RSI 5 buy signal fixed here on the weekly chart, and that is suggesting that this support here may hold, and this bull flag may have a shot at making the target, which of course would be a retest of this high here at 114.78. Looking at the daily chart, we had a weak RSI 5 sell signal that's now made target, and we have broken up from this wedge, and we have come down, and we're back testing the broken wedge resistance. I'm quite liking a retest of this low here. We could, as possible alternative, be forming an IHS here. And it wouldn't be a bad IHS. If so, it would be turning up about now. So that's what I'd be looking at in the event that we did turn back up now. So that's where we are. Pretty nice looking back test at the moment. Could find support here. We will see. All right, looking at the euro. Euro, obviously, we've got this a matching bear flag which matches the bull flag on the US dollar, and GBP, we've got a matching bear flag, which again matches the bull flag on the US dollar. In terms of the short term, no current divergence. Quite like to see a retest this high. That would set up a very nice looking double top if we are going to see that bull flag on the US dollar play out. GBP USD, weak RSI 14 sell signal that's reached possible near miss target. That may be as far as it goes. This could be forming a head and shoulders, as I was saying on the hourly chart, but equally we could be heading back up into a retest of the high. USD JPY, bigger picture. I'm looking for a move down here. But obviously we could go up before we do that. We will see. At the moment we're seeing a bit of a bounce, nothing particularly definitively looking there. No divergence worth the mention. And this could be a bear flag forming. So we'll see. Looking at USD CAD, RSI 5 buy signal fixed again with the weekly, and this of course is positively correlated with the dollar. And on the daily chart, possible bottoming action here, but again, this could be a little bear flag forming. We'll see. Australian dollar, retesting this high, could be the second high of a double top. Not really got a particularly clear pattern set up here. So keeping an open mind on this one. I would say also that the dollar, the Australian dollar and the NZ, neither of those are actually part of the official dollar index. But I watch them because just I find them interesting. Less interesting at the moment than they have been in the past, as normally we have better pattern setups. This isn't particularly impressive. All right, let's have a look at bonds. Now, bonds have been more interesting than I expected because we had nice looking head and shoulders, which was breaking down, and this actually hasn't failed yet. But we had a whole string of head and shoulders and IHSs, all of which matched, heading down towards this target here at a retest of this low here on bonds. But this one hasn't failed yet. But the corresponding one on ZN has failed, and we've got an IHS which is broken up, almost made target, but not quite, and failing at the monthly pivot so far. But this head and shoulders broke down, and that definitely failed because we went over the right shoulder high. Looking at the bigger picture charts on that, on TNX, we had an inverted head and shoulders that broke up, and that's failed. We could well be forming a head and shoulders to basically take us down in the other direction. And again, when a head and shoulders fails, you quite often see a head and shoulders forming in the other direction. We've already seen that on ZN, of course, and I'm thinking we may well be watching this happen on TNX next. TLT, we've got a head and shoulders that's broken down. This one hasn't failed yet, but again, obviously, with 2 out of these 4 head and shoulder patterns failed, the other ones may be on the way out as well. So watching this with interest, but it may be on all of these we're going to reject back to the wedge high, which in terms of TLT would be back up here at 88.31. On TNX would take us down back into a retest this low here at 42.05. All right, so we'll see how that goes. Nothing really on the bigger picture, which is giving a big influence on that. I was noting when we reached this area here at basically a yield of 5 on the 30 year, that this is the area at which the Treasury had started buying bonds. And maybe that's what they've been doing here, and maybe that's what's affected the market. Although I do think I have had questions in my mind about how much impact that has had on these things in the past. All right, let's have a look at these on CL. CL is testing this high, support trend line here, and it's a nice test, and it might hold. But I would note that here on HO, we've got a very nice looking rising megaphone. We've come down, we've tested the rising megaphone support, and this was pretty obviously a bearish overthrow. This is suggesting strongly that this is going to break down. If that's going to break down, then we're probably going to lose that trend line on CL as well. And all of these may be starting, well, be continuing down. And of course, on RBOB, we've already got a target down here at about the at the 2.02 area, which would be the retest of this low. So I'm leaning short on those. We will see. Looking at NG. NG, I was saying we may well retest the low, and we retested the low. This could be the second low of a double bottom, but I am thinking this may well continue lower. Let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And on WTIC, holding the daily middle band as resistance, this is held pretty well on a large number of tests. This one I tend to think is, I think is more important than heating oil or gasoline. But if this breaks above, obviously I'd reconsider, but at the moment, this is definitely leaning bearish. Looking at the bigger picture charts on those, we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed here on the daily, and I am wondering about a retest of this low here at 56.06. Looking at heating oil on the daily chart, we've seen a break up here. We've got what I would say is a very nice looking potential double bottom, which is actually broken up. Generally at this stage, I'd be looking for either a move up to the target, which would be in the 3.25 area to the 3.4 area, or a fail back into the low. I'm kind of leaning towards a fail back into the low, but maybe I'll be mistaken about that. I would say here that this has been holding the daily middle band as support. On gasoline, we've not been holding the daily middle band as support, and actually, if you have a look here, you can see that we were holding it, trading through it, and holding it just about for quite a while, and the last couple of days we're broken below it. In terms of the pattern setup here, the obvious target would obviously be down here in about the 1.89 area, and I'm leaning towards seeing that. Overall, I think there is a bearish cast to what we're seeing here. We'll see. Okay, looking at the nat gas daily. Seen a breakdown, retested this low, gone below it. Got to say, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking A, B, C. I was saying this was a big rising megaphone. The next obvious target would be this this trend line here down in the 2.4 area, and I'm thinking this setup is actually pretty promising for going down and testing that target. Could this be a head and shoulders? Technically, yes, but in practical terms, no. Why is that? Because the target would be in about the 1 area. It is too large. It's even with this low here being at 169, that is too large really to be a valid pattern. But this overall setup is having me wonder whether we may be going back to retest 1.69 over the next few months. Okay, daily chart, nothing really to report, no divergence, obviously holding well below the daily middle band. I'm liking this for continuation lower. All right, let's have a look at the metals. GC, we've seen a break up here from this wedge, short-term wedge, and I don't really have an alternative trend line here, so that is a legitimate looking break up to me. So now I've got an explanation for this on the bigger picture chart, which I'll come to in a minute, and that's the triangle I was thinking of. On SI, where I was expecting to see a retest this high, we've seen it. We've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. Are we going to break up from here is the question. And actually, my lean is probably yes. I think we're going to see a break over 40 and convert it. I might be mistaken, but I'll show you why I think that on the bigger picture charts. Palladium, 60-minute sell signal reached possible near miss target. Platinum, no current divergence. The sell signal made target. Little level top, which is trying to break down with a target at about the 1400 area. Maybe, maybe not. HG, we went back and retested this high here. We've got a 60-minute sell signal brewing. I'm thinking we could see a lot of downside from here, but we will see how that goes. Right, let's have a look at metals on the bigger picture charts. And gold, this is the triangle I was thinking of. Now, this was obviously the original bull flag. It broke up, and we've obviously spent a very long time retesting the high. I think this is because we've been forming a triangle, and this would be wave A, wave B, wave C, wave D, partial wave E, which would be what we saw today, or maybe a bit lower, and then we'd go back and retest the high. And this is why I'm thinking we might break up on silver as well. And silver, it broke a bit through my trend lines today. It broke through this one. This one obviously is the same trend line. This is a different trend line. And it's broken up through that as well. I'm thinking we might actually see this break up here. We still got an RSI 5 sell signal fix. We've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fix, but it wouldn't actually take an awful lot to fail both of those. I'm thinking we might be about to see a bit of a run on gold and silver, and I'd love to see that. We shall see. All right, looking at palladium. Palladium, daily sell signals brewing, not an awful lot to say that we're going to fail here, but we will see. On platinum, we've got, obviously, we've reached a possible wedge resistance trend line here. It's not bad, and I'm wondering whether it might hold as resistance. Wouldn't be astounded if we broke up through it, though. We haven't really got a pattern set up to go higher, though, but this trend line, decent trend lines, held it for a few days. Sometimes these just break and it continues higher, and we may well see that here. We do have quite a lot of negative divergence though. RSI 14 sell signal fixed, RSI 5 sell signal fixed. Looking at copper, copper, we've got no divergence on the weekly chart. Obviously we're breaking a bit over the trend line here that I was watching. But we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing, got a possible daily RSI 5 sell signal brewing, and really on the bigger picture, I'm leaning shorter. But we have got these 50% tariffs coming in. I think we're going to be seeing quite a lot of copper buying. Could it be driven higher by that buying? Potentially, yes. But this wouldn't be a bad area to fail otherwise. GDX, I was talking about this being a bull flag, and it's broken up and retested this high. Possible double top here, but nothing really compelling suggesting this is about to turn. No real divergence here. So GDXJ has broken up from the rather less nice flag here and not made the retest of the high target yet. I'm leaning, if gold is going to break up here, I'd expect both of these to likely go with it, unless gold was retesting the high because equities had started falling seriously. All right, let's have a look at KC. KC, I'm still wondering about a possible retest of this low, but at the moment we had a sell signal, it made target, and we've seen quite a large rally from there. Could we be returning to the high second half of double top? Too big, I think. If we get there, I'd be leaning towards it heading up until at least the monthly pivot at 321.80. We shall see. All right, sugar. Sugar, we've seen a sharp retracement here. Now, this obviously could be an inverted head and shoulders. If so, this would be a pretty good area to turn back up. We've got a weak 6-minute buy signal fixed, and I am wondering if we might get up to the 17 level, which is the neckline, and break up and potentially go back up and retest this high in the 1850 area. CC, we've now broken up through declining resistance, and this is a real sign that this may have turned. Now we've reached one possible inverted head and shoulder neckline. I've got another one marked up here in about the 92.70 or 80 area. Watching both of these for a potential right shoulder to form, which could then again lead this higher. Cotton, we had a head and shoulders here which failed, pointing back up, and we've had a little level top here which has failed, pointing back down. I'm wondering whether this is an overall triangle forming, and I think it might be, so going to be keeping an eye on that. Lumber, we had a double top breakdown here and fail, so we've got a larger potential double top here and a bit of rejection at the high. Watching this with interest. Bigger picture, I'm still leaning towards the low side. ZW, still wondering about a retest lower. Corn, still wondering about a retest lower, and we've got a head and shoulders, which is suggesting that we're going to go back and retest the low now. On soy, I'm wondering if a larger head and shoulders is formed here. Actually, it wouldn't be hard to draw that. Having said that, I think it wouldn't be as nice as the original head and shoulder, which broke down and failed, but it would at least have a flatter neckline, and that would be it there. So I am wondering about it. Maybe. Give it a shot. I am leaning towards the downside here, so if we did break down towards a retest of the low, then actually that would fit. On soybean oil, still leaning towards seeing a test of this megaphone support, which which is down here. Just a monthly pivot is slightly more or less still on it at the moment, and maybe in the 53.90 area, and rising, of course. Live cattle is continuing higher. I've drawn in a support trend line here. I'm not seeing any sign of it topping, no current divergence. And lean hogs, still got a megaphone, and we are obviously the megaphone had already broken up on the August contract, but we were back under resistance on the October. Leaning towards this, heading up into the megaphone resistance next, in about the 92 area. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And right, coffee. Definitely wondering about a possible retest of the low, but we are trying to hold on to the daily middle band area here. I've got that 2.98. We closed at 3 today. If it can hold above, then it's got potential to the upside. We will see. It would be cleaner if we did retest the low, but it looks like we may not. Sugar, obviously, we have this apocalypse scenario where it's broken down from the head and shoulder with a possible target down in the 6.5 to 9 area. But shorter term, this could be an IHS for me. And watching that with interest. Looks better on the hourly chart. We will see how that goes. We've still got a bit of divergence here. The RSI 5 buy signal made target, but the weak RSI 14 buy signal has not yet made target. Looking at cocoa, cocoa has seen a bit of a rise here, and we're back over the daily middle band. I'm prepared to give it the benefit of the doubt. Could be forming an IHS. We will see how that goes. Looking at wheat, still wondering about a retest of the low, and wondering that low would be down in about the 495.5 area. Looking at corn, wondering about a retest of this low. I've got that in the 385 area, and we're pretty close to it. So I'm thinking we may just go and get that. Looking at the daily chart there, no current divergence, no on the RSI 5, but we've got a possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing. But what I would really like to see is a retest of this low and get down to retest this low here at 385. Looking at soybeans, no divergence on the weekly, but again, this looks overall like a bear flag. We've been watching this for months, and it's looked like a bear flag throughout. I'm leaning towards this bear flag breaking down and heading down and retesting this low here at 936.06. Looking at the daily chart, no current divergence. It's a pretty decent looking flag, and we will see how it goes. By the way, hang on, I just want to test something. So bear with me a moment. I'm wondering whether it never quite made it to resistance. So I was wondering whether this alternative trend line might fit. And you know what? It does. So that's the flag. And it's a nice flag. And we will see how it goes from here. But if this breaks down and retest the low, that's kind of what flags do. All right, looking at cotton. Cotton, still waiting for this to break up from the wedge. We've still got a very nice looking overall double bottom. It's too large to show on the hourly chart, but it's very much there. I'm really liking the upside on this. We will see, although I've got the double bottom resistance is slightly the wrong area actually, or it's moved. It should be here. That's it, and it's a beauty. If we can break up over this resistance here, we've already got a absolutely peachy reversal pattern here, which could deliver a large move. And as you can see, cotton's been in a downtrend for 3 years. Now, I've seen it in longer downtrends before, but this is looking pretty good. I'm liking the upside here. So let's see if it can break up. We've still got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed. I like the upside. If it can break over that resistance, which I've got currently in about the, what would that be, about the 685, 690 area. If you can break over that and the wedge breaks up, then we've got the double bottom already set up. Lumber, this still looks like a bear flag. We will see how that goes. Wondering if it might go a little higher and retest this high, but bigger picture, I'm leaning towards the downside here. So we shall see how that goes. All right, great. By the way, I just wanted to mention, I haven't really been talking much about these on the bigger picture, but I might start adding it back in a bit. There's something else that I was looking for. when we were looking at this, and I'll just show you that too. And that is the setup on crypto. Now, crypto, I was thinking if we were topping out here on equities, then we'd probably top out here on a crypto, but we hadn't quite made it to where I expected to do. I expected us to at least get back to retest this 187.67, but if we were going to fail, ideally on Solana, we would break up through the IHS. Then I was talking about, I did a crypto post a couple of days ago. I was talking about doing a retracement. I mentioned getting back to 183. We made it back to 184 today. This would reset the RSI on the RSI 14 and the RSI 5, as long as the daily close was right, to a stage where on a subsequent retest of this high, we could set up negative daily divergence. And I said, if we were going to see a hard fail on Solana here, then that would be the obvious sequence. And so far, that's what we've been doing since I wrote that post a couple of days ago. This is what we did over the last day. Now, that doesn't mean we are going to turn here, but what I would say is, what I was looking for is a setup where crypto could see a fail at the same time, because there's very little evidence to suggest that crypto can go up in the absence of a supporting uptrend in equities. So if equities turns, then I'd expect crypto to turn too, and that would be the ideal way for that to turn. That could well be playing out, and I'm watching it with great interest. But it could be when we get back up to here. I mean, that wouldn't quite be perfect. Ethereum has got so close to the IHS target at a retest of 410905. I'd really like to see that hit. But I'm thinking if we actually see that hit in the next couple of days, and we see sell signals brewing on Ethereum and Solana, then, well, that would be the thing I hadn't mentioned on the bigger picture that I would also expect to see at the same time, and would have done that too. So, still thinking we may well be seeing a significant retracement soon. We could be seeing a major turn. We could break up through it. I've seen stranger things before. And obviously we've still got upside targets we could go up and get on crypto particularly. So here we could go up and make a new all-time high. Solana, obviously this IHS that's broken up has got a target at that's up in the 283 area, but really it's got a target up at a retest of the all-time high at 294.95. We could go up and get it. We shall see. But if we are going to see a fail, I was thinking retracement, retest, fail. And that sequence so far is playing out. We've almost made all of my targets on the various equities that I was thinking looked like unfinished business. I am wondering about it. We shall see how that goes. All right, great. Cheers. In that case, I think that's a wrap. And I will catch you guys again on Sunday. All right, take care.